My name is Roy Canterbury, and I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101. And we're going to talk about today is the difference between a hunting bow and a target bow. So let me get a little bit description of how they're used differently. Now, a hunting bow is normally going to be used almost exclusively outside because you don't really hunt inside. So you're going to be out in the environment. You're going to be out where there's grass. You might be walking to your tree stand, or you might be just doing a spot and stalk. You're walking through the fields. Might have tall grass. You might be walking through cornfield, forest areas. You're climbing up your tree and you're pulling your bow up. So you need to have your hunting bows need to be a little bit more rugged, less things to go wrong. You don't want to start putting a lot of the fancy equipment on there because it can go wrong. Like if you have a drop away rest and the string breaks or something, now you can't shoot at all. So that's a failure point that you're going to have on there that you want to try and eliminate. Now, can you use them? Of course you can. There's nothing wrong with having all that nice fancy stuff on there. You want a sight that is going to be durable. It's going to have a nice cage. Most of them have cages around them, so you're not going to worry about that. But you don't want to have your sight sticking out way out in front of your bow because it's something that can catch on stuff as you're moving around. So if you've got your sight too far away from the riser, you can easily be going through a field. And if you have like fiber optic pins, you could break one of those off. The branch get in there, it's closer to the bow. You're not going to have as much problem with that. And then, as far as your sight, that can be a multi-pin or a single pin. Some of the advantages of the multi-pin is you don't have to figure out what your pin is set for. You just learn the distance. So you can use your 20, 30, 40, 50 yard pin, whatever you have set up on there, and just learn where to shoot. And then you can judge the distance and quickly adjust. If you have a single pin that's adjustable, you're going to want to set it for probably 20 yards because most times you're going to have with a bow, you're going to have that range. If something comes out at 40, you're going to have to learn how high you're going to have to shoot. You can't just move to your 40-yard pin. So that's something to think about when you're going out there is where you set. If you had one coming out and you're going to shoot at it was 40 yards out or whatever, you reset your sight and now they come in at 20, now you're going to be shooting high. So that's something to think about when you're going out is what ranges are you going to be shooting at? If you're like out elk hunting where you might have a 60-yard shot and your pin is set for 20, now then you're not even close to hitting it. Or if you have it set for 60 because that's where you figure most of your shots are, and all of a sudden the animal comes in at 20 yards. Now you're going to be real high. So you just need to figure out which one to do that. So that's kind of how you're going to use your hunting bow. Uh, they're going to be camo. Most of them are. You don't have to have camo. It's just, it does hide the bow a little bit. But I always figured at the time when they can tell you don't have a camo bow, you're already in trouble. So the arrows don't have to be camo because if they can tell that you have arrows on your bow, you're already in trouble. They're already looking at you. So that's how you're going to use your hunting bow. Now, can you use it for target? Of course. I use my hunting setup for shooting target because I'm more practicing for hunting. So I'm not going into the long stabilizers and that kind of fancier stuff, or more for target. Now your target bow, if it's just for target, a lot of times they're just a color or a multicolor, not in the camo range. You're going to put a real long stabilizer out front. You're going to have counterweights in the back because as you have all that weight up front, you have to have something to counterweight it so it just sits in there. They're going to be heavier. Now, a heavier bow with a longer rod on it or stabilizer is going to be more stable. You just think it's the same way your tightrope walkers use. They have this great big long pole hanging out there because you can't move it quick and it keeps their balance. Same thing with a target bow. We have a long stabilizer front. You have one or two on the back to counterbalance it, so it'll help balance it out. It has a little bit heavier weight. Once you get used to the weight, then you're going to be more stable with it. Where your hunting setup is going to be shorter. Now, if you're doing 3D hunting, most of them are 12-inch or less stabilizers for the hunting class. So you can have how long you want to make your stabilizer, in the target range, in your different classes. So that's kind of the differences between that. Now I'm mostly talking about compounds right now, and recurve longbow is a little bit different because you're going to shoot basically the same bow. So I really not addressing that too much, but your target bows, they're going to most likely have, a nice rest on it. You could use a drop away rest because you have less, less that can worry about going wrong. If it goes wrong, you might lose a couple points or lose a tournament as opposed to wound or lose an animal when you're hunting. So a lot of times you use a single pin because you only have one range you're shooting at. You're not going to have all of a sudden you're shooting at 20 yards, and then now next time you might shoot at 40 yards and back to 20 and 30, and you're not going to shoot at different ranges intermediate like that. Where if you're target and you are shooting different ranges, you're going to shoot at one range, you're going to set your scope to be whatever that range is. Get ready to shoot the next one, you're going to reset your scope. You don't have that all of a sudden, the target's there and then gone. So that's kind of a little difference between how you're going to use them. They're going to be set up probably slightly different. You might hunt with like a caliper release, wrist strap release that fasten into your wrist. Where you target, you might go with a handheld or a hinge one or something. Now I use a handheld when I hunt just because that's what I use a lot and I like it. And mine actually will clip to the loop so it hangs on there when I'm up in the tree stand. I don't have to hunt for it. I can just reach down and grab it. Where in target, you've got plenty of time. You can look at your equipment, you can go through your whole process. You're not rushed. So that's the kind of difference between the bows that you're going to have for between target and hunting. Target is good for developing your skills. If you mostly want to hunt, shoot the targets because they develop your skill to hit the spot you're shooting at. So you want to get so that if I put that pin there, I have the ability to hit that spot. Where you're hunting, you have to pick that spot still. And if you don't know that you have the ability to group really small, so that's one thing that you want to look at too, is how you're going to use it. And they can be set up different, and lots of times they are set up different if it's strictly a target bow. Now, for those of us that use your hunting bow to shoot target because your main focus is on hunting, then we're going to shoot in the hunter class and shoot our same thing we're going to hunt with. Now, if you're not interested in the hunting part, then set your bow up strictly for target because that's all you're going to do. So that's what you want to think about too, is when you get into a bow for target. When you buying your bow, that's another thing to look at too, is when you buy your bow, what are you going to use it for? If it's just going to be target, you can get a target bow that has, whatever colors you want, non-camo. When you get ready to upgrade to a different bow, now you have to think about, okay, what is my market for that bow? Well, that's only to market to other target shooters. You can't take that bow and sell it to a hunter because hunters were going to go with the camo or something like that. It might be all black or something. If you're hunting out of a blind, it doesn't matter. Normally black is better because the inside is all lined with black, and then you don't wear your camo, you wear just black clothes. And that way you hide into the background a little bit better. So that's something to think about too, is if you're going to upgrade your bow, who are you going to sell it to? That's something you always need to think about. I have my hunting bow is a 2001 bow. My bow is also a hunting bow, but I have it set up for target. That's a 2003 bow, and then I have both PSEs, and I have a bear that's, I think, a 2016 or 18, somewhere around in there. I don't remember now, but that one I haven't set up, but that's in a white snow camo. So you just got to figure out what's your bow and how long you're going to keep your bow. Like me, I like to keep them a long time. I don't like to keep changing bows all the time because, hey, I'm used to the bow and I like to keep it. So that's something to think about too, is, your hunting bow and your target bow, can they be the same? Yes. Are they normally the same? Depends. If you're mostly a hunter, yes. If you're not a hunter, just going to shoot for target, you're going to set your target bow up completely different than you will for hunting. You don't have to worry about, all the things that can go wrong out in the field. If you have a peep with the rubber on it and that rubber breaks, you're not going to line up. I use, when it doesn't use rubber, just you just split the string and put it in there, and that, when you get a good string, they're not going to rotate differently. They're going to come back each time. Then for peeps too, you can look at, there's one that splits it in three. The advantage of that is you don't have to worry about it. It's always going to line up. The disadvantage is you're going to have a string in front of your vision at times. And I don't like having the string in front of my vision, especially getting older. You don't see as well. So having that string in there makes everything blurry, even blurrier. So that's something to think about too. And you're not going to use a clarifier in a target bow. You might use it in a target bow because you're at that fixed range and you know where it's at. You can adjust the clarifier so you make the target nice and clear. I've tried them, and for me and my vision, when I'm doing it, they just never worked out very well. But I know a lot of people that are using them and they're really good. I don't normally shoot a lot of target bow setups, so I don't really have that fixed range that I can hunt at, because I go to 3D shoots and they're at multiple different ranges, and clarifiers are more going to work for a specific range. If you're shooting your 20 yards or 20-meter targets, or I think it's 18 meters to 20 yards, but that's going to be something I'd look at too. What are you using it for? That's the first thing you want to figure out when you're shooting a bow, and that's kind of the differences between target and hunting bows. And there's just so much you can do with them, and it's always nice setting them up and just seeing what works for you and what doesn't work. And helping you set something like that, a good coach can help you out with setting up your bow, setting up your form, shooting. You may have a little bit different form for your hunting bow than you do for your target bow. Normally you shouldn't, but there could be one. And a good coach is going to help you with that. And I have a coaching program. It's done online. It's done through some videos and then live Zoom calls to go through, or whatever problems you might have, work through that. I'll leave a link in the description below of how you can get into a free 15-minute consultation call. Just click that link on there, fill out that form. It gives me a little information about you, know what your struggles are, information like that. So I know when we get on the call, we can make that 15 minutes efficient call and help see what we can help you out the best. And then the other place you can go out for some really good information is the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group. There we have a lot of members in there from all over the world with a lot of experiences. And then you can even actually upload a video of you shooting, and then we'll critique it and give you some pointers. That's free to the group members. We go through looking at fixing your equipment. We've got a series going on where we're actually repairing a bow, starting from making the strings part to the end. And that's all free into the group. So join that group. A lot of good information in there. If you want some coaching, you're interested in coaching right away, click the link below, fill out that form, get a free 15-minute consultation call, and we'll see if coaching might work for you. So once again, my name is Canterbury. I've been your host today on Archery Talk 101.